Thank you. Next up will be reviewing and approving the agenda. If I can get a motion to approve the agenda for April 7th. Matt. And, okay, Phil. Everybody, all in favor? Thank you. If we could approve the minutes as well for March 17th, can I get a motion to approve the minutes? Matt, Julie, all in favor? Thank you. And next we have Student Spotlight, Shark Tank, which I'm very excited for.
Thank you. I am going to introduce Melinda Meyer, who is our K through 12 Innovation Director and Science Coordinator, K-8.
Oh my gosh, sounds like Smith.
We get it. CJ, turn yours down. Yep. Okay.
So I think we're okay, good. I don't like hearing my own voice. But we're here tonight to do a student spotlight for our Shark Tank. We had our VPA, Performing Arts, coming last month, and so this month we decided to highlight a few of our middle schoolers who've been participating in the Shark Tank. I'm going to let Melinda Meyer explain the history of our Shark Tank and how it has transformed over the years, and then we'll be introducing our students and teacher, faculty member who's here this evening. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education, administrators, and our school community. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to spotlight 2 student-designed products from our Shark Tank program this evening. The STEM program at Sachs Middle School offers students a wide range of opportunities to explore innovation, problem solving, and creative thinking. Shark Tank is just one of the many courses that encourage our students to think and act like designers and engineers. Hatched in 2016, Shark Tank has evolved over the years as we integrated design thinking into the course. The program guides our students through the process of identifying real-world problems and developing authentic solutions that culminate in a student pitching their ideas to our authentic audience. And some of you have even been audience members or our sharks during the presentations. As the program has grown, we have also grown in our learning spaces and our tools. So from the Think Lab, where we are planning and storyboarding, to the Design Lab, where we're rapidly prototyping, and the Fab Lab, where we do fabrications using 3D printers, electronics, soldering tools, and our newest addition, which we love so far, is the Glowforge, which we just got this springtime. It's a laser engraver. So you have heard about Shark Tank during previous presentations, and tonight we're excited to give you a glimpse into the student experience through their own voices and their work. The course has been led over the years by our 7th grade science team, technology integrators, and our innovation teacher. And tonight I'm pleased to introduce you to Kevin D'Alton, who is our 7th grade science teacher, who will share more and introduce our students to you.
Good evening. I'm actually very proud to be here. I'm proud to see these kids have this opportunity. I am one of the 5 Shark Tank teachers, and tonight you'll hear from 2 groups of students. They have used their hands-on learning to come up with these solutions, and I want to introduce Logan and Charlie. They're 8th graders, so they took our class last year, and then after that we'll see Quinn and Sophia, who will have their projects. So I'll give it to you guys now.
Thank you, Mr. D'Alton. So our product is the Sideline Saver, which is a solution to all of your problems. Have you ever come off the sports field feeling tired and hot? Well, I can tell you, I have. The problem at hand is that sports players who wear helmets are met with a similar problem. That's heat. That's why we are creating a solution for most athletes. Here you can see up on the board, this is the evolution of our product. We started off with a 3D printed casing, some wires, and a couple mashed up batteries, which you can see as the end product. We turned into a sleek design for easy use to all lacrosse players of all levels. Our product works on the lacrosse field, hockey rink, and football field, along with many other sports. You can also add custom color and writing to the cooler for a more personalized look. So as you can see, our cooler version 1.0 is $25 and cost to produce is $15. And in the works right now is our cooler 2.0 version, which is $40, which is cost to produce is $30. We're going to get into those features later in our presentation, so I'll just move on. So we are seeking $200,000 to expand and develop our business. In return, you would be awarded 10% of our annual income. So as you can say, Shark Tank's great, but what does it really get out for the students? So while making our Shark Tank, we use a process which uses the steps of the design of the thinking process. As you can see, we have a chart up on the board about what that is, and I'll hand it off to Logan about our marketing and adaptations, not literally, but.
So Charlie and I are both part of the lacrosse team for New Canaan, and in this team we go play a bunch of tournaments, and tournaments are a huge part of lacrosse culture, and at these tournaments we get to meet a bunch of other fellow players and coaches, and all of them will be able to see that we're not getting hot, we're not sweating. And it's all because of the sideline saver right here. It's keeping us nice and cool. As you can see, it will clip onto the helmet just right here. You turn it on and you get a nice breeze, keep you cool. As Charlie was saying, the 2.0 is going to have a little spritzer, so you spritz some water on your face if you get too hot. And then also we're going to be able to do different colors and designs, and we're going to make it a little smaller. As you see, it's pretty boxy right now, so it's not really handheld, but we're going to make it a little more handheld.
So the future skills that we really get out of it, which is really important, is connecting to our audience. As you can see, we've been doing this today by knowing our audience and really what your guys' goals are. We've developed problem-solving skills through the design process and our execution, which would be building our actual product. And our designing and soldering was a big part of making it. Inside our product, there's a lot of intense wiring that we've gone through, and even though it may not look like it, it's definitely there. And the 3D printing behind it, we used computer-aided design, also known as CAD. We used a system called Tinkercad that really allowed us to get the perfect measurements for what our goal is. And that brings us to the end, so I don't know if I can ask if you guys want to ask any questions, but I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? I thought it was pretty awesome. Thank you.
I got one.
Oh, Phil.
I'm just curious what the difference is between the two versions of the side. Is it sideline saver? That's what it is, right?
Yeah, that's right. Logan, I'll hand that over to Logan because he was he's our design guy. If you want to take it.
So if you can see now, it's just air, so it's just blowing air right now. But with the 2.0, we're going to add a little spritzer, and so we could add water, and it just give you some cool water to go on your face.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about any setbacks you experienced or the process of going from your idea to what you have in front of you on the table?
Of course. A lot of our setbacks came when we were 3D printing and searching for fans. As you can see, what we have on our product right now, that was definitely hard to find. We went through a lot of fans. I can tell you a lot of them were flying off. A lot of them weren't spinning at all. It's kind of dangerous, but
I have some scars on my face.
yeah. So that was definitely a really intense part of our process.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, this is our Shark Tank project, the Mopper Walker. Problem: do your kids hate doing chores? Do you find yourself spending time arguing with your child to get them to clean up?
Not for long. Introducing the Mopper Walkers.
Our research. Here are some existing designs. However, our product is better because it includes a drying attachment and an easy top to come off and washable mop that will surely clean up any messes. Our product also rises above these because of how comfy and kid-friendly they are.
How the Mopper Walkers work. Our product is an easy-to-use, kid-friendly way to clean up around the house. Our mop shoes are made of foam, insulation, black silk, cardboard, blue cloth, and a mop/dry material. To use them, you just slide your foot in and glide. The mop material will pick up any dirty areas or spills. Just carefully wet the mop part and the drying side will pick up any excess water. They are fun to use and also a great way to accomplish your chores.
Okay, these are how they work.
So first, you're just gonna find any spill that you have around your house. And then all you have to do is unattach the Velcro from the mop and then dip the mop part in soapy or just regular water. And then you can use the Velcro to reattach the mop on. And then you just slide your foot in and the mop material will pick up the water, but the drying side will also ensure that your floor will stay dry.
How does it work to solve your problem? One reason why our product meets the needs of young children needing to get chores done is because of how easy and child-friendly our shoes are. Each pair has a mop attachment and dry attachment that is easy to come off because of the Velcro, which proves children are able to use them. Unlike other products on the market, ours has a drying attachment that absorbs water as you walk. Children can have a hard time lugging around a big mop, but ours is easy to just slide on your feet and gets the job done just as well.
The design process. Some challenges we had was making sure that our shoe was 100% waterproof and that it wouldn't leak while using. Also, we had to ensure that the Velcro was easy to attach and detach, especially because young children will be using them.
Here are some photos of our mopper walker in the making.
Our profit margins. The total cost to make our shoe costs $14.09, but our product will sell for $24.99. Other products on the market cost in the range of $20 to $30. Our profit per sale is $10.09.
Future for our mopper walkers. Our mopper walkers have room for improvement, such as stepping up their game. As this idea grows, we are helping to upgrade and add another level to our shoes, such as adding a motorized spinner to our shoes that ensure everything gets cleaned up and can be more fun for some older ages that get to use these. What we learned from our Shark Tank experience. During our experience in Shark Tank, we both learned how to use our critical thinking skills, creativity, and design thinking to brainstorm an effective idea that would solve our overall problem.
Design thinking is solving a problem by putting together the steps explore, focus, ideate, prototyping, and reflecting together to emphasize the user's needs.
Something else we learned from this process was to not give up and use our problem-solving skills to fix any errors in our design to ensure our product works.
Team. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Good.
Thank you.
Oh, well, you're not done yet. You want the money or no? Do you guys, have you used it in your own home?
Not yet.
Ah, wrong answer. That's when you're supposed to lie. I'm just kidding. Do you think you would use it?
Yes.
Okay, so you don't use it because you don't think it's effective, or you don't mop the floor?
Oh no, they're just in a display case in the school for a demonstration.
Keep them protected. I like that.
Yep.
That's great. And what are some other ideas? Was this your first idea, or did you have other ideas that you were thinking?
We had a lot of other ideas, but
This one was the most effective and it solved the problem the most.
Okay, I like that. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Yeah, he stole my question.
Anybody else? That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Did we do the minutes?
We did both of them.
I guess I was doing all that.
Yeah, we did them both. All right, that was great. Thank you so much. Now we're going to move on to comments from the public. To ensure that comments' right to be heard, the board set aside time during the meeting for public comments, 2 minutes allotted to each speaker with a max of 15 on each subject. Would anybody like to approach the board this evening? No? No? All right, moving on. Okay, sure.
Good evening. Mary Ann Cannog, 258 Park Street. As you know, I'm interested in the conversation on curriculum. And as you know, I'm a former teacher, but I still teach adults. So this is and I teach literature. So you can imagine this is my home court. Tonight, I have a couple of things I want to, in my few minutes. I want to say, one, Dr. Ludsey is correct. Being a teacher, but I would add superintendent, board of ed member is the best job on the planet. There's nothing better. I would even argue that the teacher is the very best. There is the real relationship and the exchange that happens, and the growth is right in front of your eyes. The enterprise of educating children and adolescents is a lofty calling. In this enterprise, we form minds and hearts, we hone skills, and we nurture and guide these people. If we only focus on their minds and skills that get us those great scores and ratings, right, without instructing their hearts with good values and ethics, we leave them open to bully behavior, depression, and even suicide, things that we care so much about and want to avoid. We cannot feed them with clearly offensive and disrespectful literature and media, or divisive agendas, and expect good character and lofty aspirations. Also, I want to talk about the stakeholders here. As I watched Dr. Ludsey's comments on the review board of curriculum, it talked especially about how pleased the parents were and the hard work of teachers in publishing syllabi and sending home letters. But in the Board of Ed bylaws, statement of integrity, it says, board members must be working effectively together with parents, students, school administrators, teachers, citizens, local elected officials, and other individuals and groups deemed appropriate. So there's so many stakeholders. I'm one. I'm a grandmother of 2 students in your schools. So we have a lot of stakeholders. And I don't think if we're going to come together on things, which is what I hope for, and be team members, we have to include more people in the community. And lastly...
It's been 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Sorry, my timer did a funny noise, but it was 2 minutes. Apologies.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to approach the board? All right. So now we're going to move on to reports and recognition, the school climate update, and Sandy Hook Promise with Dr. Bliss.
Yes, as Dr. Bliss approaches, I'll say a word or two, hand it off to Mr. Tesber if you like. But thank you, Dr. Bliss, for being here, and thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. As you know, we biannually administer surveys across our schools, across the district, for students, for staff, for parents, and that is that's the basis of the work that we do around school climate committees and other work that Susan will be sharing with us. And we'll also have a Sandy Hook Promise update as well. Mr. Chesbrook?
I would just add that Susan has been here for 10 years and done an amazing job working with an extensive team throughout the district to look at the culture and climate of the schools. And she's here tonight to talk about the great work she's done and where we're going to go forward with the district and school climate and culture.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here tonight to share with you about our school climate. And I'm also very aware that the Final Four is tonight, I believe at 8:50. Is that right? So
Actually, it's the national championship, I believe, right?
Okay.
One,
I don't really know anything about basketball at all. I knew that was going to happen. But anyway, there's a big game tonight, I hear. So I have like 75 slides to get through. I'm going to talk really fast. But I did want to start just a little bit about school climate. And all of the research that we know about and all of our experiences in classrooms have taught us over and over again that school climate is not an afterthought. It's not a luxury. It truly is the foundation of academic excellence. And everything we do in this district is really directed at that, making sure that all our kids feel safe, engaged, connected. I know that, our kids walk into our buildings every morning. It's brick and mortar, but it's more than that. It's really communities. It's about the communities they're joining. And those communities are going to shape them, shape not just what they know, but who they are. So this work is really essential to everything that we do, and every interaction that we have in the schools is so important. A teacher's smile, encouragement, a peer feeling accepted makes a difference between that student who is in the front of the class, motivated, excited, and the one who may be in the back just playing it safe. So tonight I'm going to talk a lot about the school climate work that we do, and I wanted to start with just thanking everybody for being here tonight. We have a number of people from our school climate teams across the district, and they just do amazing work. I'm here presenting. They do all of the work. They're passionate about it. They are creative, and I just appreciate all that they do. So we have parents, we have administrators, we have teachers, all representing us tonight, so thank you. So I'm going to talk tonight about Board of Education Goal 4, promote a healthy environment that fosters respect, ethical behavior, responsible local, national, and global citizenship. And this board goal has a robust set of objectives under it, which I'm going to condense a little bit and highlight for the purpose of time to try to get through. But the ones we'll be talking about are reviewing and implementing the school climate plans, ensuring all students feel a sense of belonging, safety, engagement, and an inclusive, respectful, equitable environment. We'll also talk about professional development to staff, providing education to families, and as Bill said, a little bit more about the Sandy Hook Promise. So just to get us on the same page, what is school climate? We're really talking about those norms, values, and expectations, and relationships that support people feeling socially, emotionally, and physically safe. Why is it important? Decades of research have shown us that it's really essential to learning. That in fact, when we have our stress response systems going, if we're not feeling safe and supported, then those higher level cognitive functions aren't available. So it's really important that kids feel safe in order to do that kind of learning. And positive school climate has been associated with better academic achievement, lower risky behaviors, better physical and mental health, less bullying, better attendance, and less aggression. So I'm going to dive into the data a little bit and talk about that. We used a measure called the Comprehensive School Climate Inventory. We chose it because it did have very good reliability and validity. It's been used in over 2,000 schools across the nation. And we did this in the spring of 2024. We also used this measure in 2022. And we are really targeted this time in 2024, the K-8 families, teachers and staff, and our students grades 3 and 4. And also just to note that the parents are able to review the survey and opt out their students if they choose. We're going to go back to that. Okay, this is supposed to be later. We're just going to go with it. This is actually our students who are, one of the things I'm really proud of is that we have students leading this work. And so what you're going to see is a couple of our students who are in the broadcast. We have broadcasts in all 3 of our schools.
The Eagles are a dynamic group of 12 fourth graders at East School who came together with one mission of making their school a better place for everyone. Our mission statements is to build and strengthen skills and connections between and among in order for all to feel included, build friendships, and foster empathy. We also created a logo using Canva. After brainstorming together, we choose to focus on improving the bus environment, making sure it's clean, safe, and welcome for all students. To gather ideas, we interviewed students for different grades at East and surveyed kids at Saks. Stay tuned for exciting news, new rewards to make the bus a space where everyone can soar. Have a great day!
If you are ever in an argument with anyone, Even though it's hard, try to take deep breaths and picture you are the other person. For anyone who doesn't know, that is practicing empathy. If you can do this, you would know what the other person is feeling, and it could help you better understand the conflict and how to solve it.
During our broadcast, we will focus on being kind and neighborly at West.
Being kind and neighborly can help West become a better place.
We'll be focusing on how to be your best during recess time.
One way to be neighborly and safe is to use the playground equipment appropriately.
Another way is to invite a friend to walk the mileage club with you.
Okay. So that really is the face of our school climate work. Much more fun than the data anyway, but we'll get back to some of the data. So these are the dimensions that the school climate measures, and they're mostly self-explanatory, but I will just mention that social emotional security, some people ask about what does that mean. It's really questions like I've been teased or harassed more than once at school, or kids in our school will stand up to others if others are making fun of them, questions like that. So the other one that sometimes people ask about is social media. That asks questions also about, have people been unkind to you online, or do kids share inappropriate information online? Just two examples of different kinds of questions. And the rest, I think, are pretty self-explanatory. But if you have questions, by all means, let me know. So we had a great response rate overall for the CSCI. We had elementary students at 94% responding, middle school students 96%, families 24%, which doesn't sound high, but the company said that was amazing. So thank you, families, really high. And staff looks low, but really it was 96% of certified staff. We had a lower number of non-certified staff replying, and so the number looks a little lower because of that. But overall, we had good response rate. The measure has a Likert scale, 5 points. 5 is strongly agree, 4 is agree, 3 is neutral, 2 is disagree, and 1 is strongly disagree. And I want to just note on number 3 especially, it says neutral, but it's also defined for people as they're filling it out as neither agree nor disagree. And that becomes important because in some of these different domains, many people were saying neither agree nor disagree. And so it looks like that brought our scores down in some areas, so I'll talk a little bit more about that. The company gives us sort of ranges that help us to understand our data, and according to them, anything above a 3.5 is considered positive, 2.5 to 3.5 is considered neutral, and negative is considered below 2.5. So looking first at our elementary students, and again, that's grades 3 and 4. You can see the median scores here, and overall we do incredibly well, really approaching 4.0 for our overall score. We had incredible strength on safety rules and norms, and that actually improved from 2022. That was one of the areas that was stronger for us. We had strengths around support for learning, respect for diversity, social support for adults, physical surroundings, we always do very well, and you can see those are some of the strengths. You can also see some of our areas of growth, in particular our social emotional security and social media. Now, I will say that's one of the things that we noticed when we looked at the data is particularly for social media, but even social emotional security, many people were answering neither agree nor disagree. And some of the questions are phrased as other students in my school, for example, give inappropriate information online. So it does seem as if there may have been some sense that people didn't know what other kids are doing. They answered agree nor disagree, and then because our scores are so good, it kind of brings our scores down. Does that make sense? So they're giving 3s, and so if we're at a 4, if they keep saying agree, I neither agree nor disagree, it's kind of bringing our scores down. And many of these had like 49% of people who were answering neither agree nor disagree. So it's just something to be careful in the interpretation a little bit, and that was also true with parents and staff around some of these questions. So we're just trying to understand what it all means, but that's one thing to consider. But overall, very, very strong data, areas of growth, social emotional security, and social media. SAC students, very similar, many strengths. Again, one of our other strengths and changes from 2022 to 2024 was safety rules and norms. I give credit to our behavior matrix committee at SACS because they did a lot of work around this and really teaching kids expectations. And that was fantastic. So I think that may have had something to do with those high scores. Again, we see our areas for growth, social emotional learning, and social media doing very well in the other areas. Our parent scores actually mirrored to a large extent met much of what we saw from our students. So the overall score was close to 4. Again, strengths in the area of safety rules and norms, looking at physical surroundings, engagement and connection, social support from adults. So many strong areas. But again, we see that area for growth of social emotional security and social media from the parents' perspective. Again, we see large numbers of neither agree nor disagree, and we don't know if that's because they just don't know what other kids are doing, or maybe their kids don't have phones, and so they're saying that. We don't know. Our staff scores are also very strong, and again, it's kind of amazing how consistent these are across populations, but we see a lot of strengths in all areas, and areas of growth being sense of social emotional security and social media. So really the conclusions from the K-8 survey, I think we're continuing to look at these areas of social emotional security and social media. It's part of how we're thinking about the phone-free schools, looking at this data and thinking this is important. We think it's going to be something very important to look at in the data in 2 years, or next year, actually at the end of next year when we do the climate survey again, and see if it's changed at all. I think that'll be interesting to see. We are getting some anecdotal data from schools saying that they aren't seeing quite the same amount of difficulties without the phones. Certainly we're getting feedback that kids are less distracted and teachers are less distracted by it all as well, so that's good. The other thing I'll say is some of the social emotional learning was brought down by questions like, I will tell an adult if somebody's being unkind online. And I think we do still have an issue of kind of that culture of silence that we have to think about. But that is one of the reasons we put the Sandy Hook Promise tool in our toolbox to really have a way that our students can anonymously report, because we know that kids aren't always comfortable coming to adults as much as we want them to, and as much as we teach that. That's an area that we want to continue to work on. So many strengths. We're really celebrating all that strengths. We know we always have more work to do, but that's where we are in terms of the K-8 climate. You didn't see high school because the high school actually had their own survey, and this was given as part of their New England Association of Schools and Colleges accreditation visit. It's a different survey, and we decided we didn't want to have to survey families and kids twice. That didn't make sense. So we used this one, so I'm just going to go over this very quickly and what the data showed. This survey is used by over 135 schools. It's administered to high school students, families, and staff. It assesses learning culture along with a number of other areas in terms of learning resources and student supports. It has a 5-point Likert scale from totally true to totally untrue. We had great response rates again, high numbers of students, families, and faculties responding. And this is some of the data that we see. They don't break it out as beautifully as the other company, so what you're seeing here is just my putting together when there was when it said all totally true or mostly true, those positive responses, you're seeing the percentage of positive responses. And each column is a different population, the faculty, the family, and the students. The X's just mean they didn't ask that question for that population that was surveyed. So you can see we have fantastic data, many strong scores here. We're really proud of that. One area obviously lower, I trust other students even if I don't know them. Kind of an interesting question to think about and something we're thinking about, but it does seem like a bit of a high bar, right, to trust people you don't necessarily know. I don't know. The second piece of data we have is that the school community takes collective responsibility for the well-being of every student and can demonstrate how each student is known, valued, and connected. Again, you can see we have very strong scores overall. very proud of that. I think the areas that you see that it is lower, the one that's 63%, all adults seem to take responsibility for getting to know all students, not just the students they teach. So the high school got together and decided that would be their goal, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that they've done. And I really do love that question because I think it gets to the question of community. How do you build community? It's not just between individual relationships, it's really the whole community. So we'll talk a little bit more about how the high school has addressed that. And there were many commendations from this NEASC report. Two that related to school climate were mutual respect, care, and support between staff and students, and commitment of faculty to collaboratively address student academic and social emotional needs. So we were proud of our feedback that we received from them on that. So with that, I'm going to move to kind of thinking about some of our school climate work that we do, and all of our work is based in the data. It is a state mandate that we have school climate committees across the district, and we use the school climate data to really think about what is it that we want to improve each year, and we develop goals and action plans in order to try to make those improvements from one year to the next. And as I mentioned, we have teachers, administration, and parent representatives on our committees, and this is a picture of our wonderful committee at West. One thing important to just think about also is that we do have our teachers get feedback around the school climate goal. In particular, that's a part of TEPL. We put the school climate goal in there so that everybody in the building is rowing in the same direction toward a common goal and continuous improvement. And in addition, as you've heard many times, we have Domain 1 where teachers are getting feedback about how they're developing their classroom communities as well. So the West School Climate Goal, I'm going to just run through quickly some of the school climate goals. West was students will strengthen their social emotional skills by participating in explicit instruction designed to teach strategies for regulating emotions and behavior. And they decided to do this in a number of ways. One, they came up with a new acronym for KIND, and it stands for them, kind, independent, neighborly, and determined. And they really wanted that determined part in there, which I love about their acronym. So they then went and taught the students what does it mean to be determined, what does it mean to be independent, and used lessons in their morning meeting to just help them understand what that means. They also worked on conflict resolution strategies, knowing the data that we had around social emotional safety, and thinking that kids really don't always have the strategies to be able to resolve conflict, which then leads to, outbursts and perhaps some unkind behavior. And they did, I think the PE teacher worked very hard on conflict resolution strategies, and that was another way that they worked on conflict. And of course, we always know we need to take a meta moment. We're in the midst of conflict, so we're teaching that as well to help kids to be able to take a pause. South's school climate goal was to work and improve on conflict resolution skills as well, and really work on the sense of that social emotional security. They had 3 different subcommittees, one that worked on some lessons for the kids around conflict and empathy and perspective taking. They also did some work with the faculty around teaching them how to use the blueprint, which is really a tool for perspective taking and helping people to see different perspectives. And they continued to also work on having one book that they're going to be distributing to read that is directly related to their goal. So they've been doing some wonderful work there as well. East School Climate, they've really focused on building skills and connections among students for everyone to feel included and build friendships and foster empathy. They started out with wonderful community building with the kickball game, which was actually a reward and an incentive for kids. So when kids were following their behavior expectations, they were able to win this faculty kickball game, and by all accounts, it was a really fun day. You can see all the kids with their posters and faculty having a good time. I'm flying through, so please forgive me because I'm not mentioning about 25 other initiatives you all have done, but we're just trying to go quickly. The middle school's goal was really around fostering a safe and inclusive school community where all students feel physically, socially, emotionally secure. And they really wanted to have the emphasis with our phone-free schools on digital wellness habits and equip students with those skills to be critical consumers, responsible creators, and ethical users of technology. So they have worked very hard in terms of their phone-free schools, and also have been doing some incredible work, whether it's the student leadership team doing Start with Hello, which is an initiative through Sandy Hook Promise on inclusion and helping kids to include other kids, working on building community with adults because they have their Do You Have a Snowman, which sounds, it was a lot of fun, a lot of laughs, because they had a number of them circulating around for all the faculty. And at the end, there was a prize for the person who had the most, and they had to ask who had that snowman. And it was really a lot of fun. They had a super time. So a lot of things that they're doing in terms of building their school climate, both for adults and for the kids, which we're really proud of. Sachs Intermediate has been working on having a student leadership team, and they decided to really focus this around connections. They were concerned also about the social emotional security data and wanted to really build relationships and connections between students. So they worked on that, and you're going to see a little video later on that. They also worked on their charter, which is a Sachs Intermediate faculty. Obviously, it's the first year that the school has been in existence, so they spent some time thinking about how the adults want to feel in the building. And at the high school, we've had, as I mentioned, their goal was really around that piece of data around knowing all of their students, even those they don't know, even those they don't teach. So the school community takes collective responsibility for the well-being of every student, and making sure they feel known, valued, and connected. We've had some really incredible teacher leadership in Ari Weeks and Darcy Smith and Sarah Drexel working on our building block, and have really transformed how that looks. They've got all kinds of community time where they're getting to know their students. They, at one point, had a paper chain where they had everybody's name, and so it was symbolic of community, and they had it all the way from the cafeteria to the nurse's office. So every time they get together, there's something incredible happening in terms of the relationship building. We also did something through with the faculty around building relationships, and we called it relationship mapping, making sure that every student in the high school has an adult who knows them, and continued to do that work. And there was one more that I wanted to remember about. Oh, the other thing that they've worked very hard on together is, nope, it was just the building block, I guess. I'm so sorry. Yeah, that just went out of my head. But anyway, it's been fun to see them make some changes around that as well. The second piece is to ensure that the second board objective I want to talk about is ensure all students feel a sense of belonging, safety, and engagement. And that's something that we have done a lot of work even outside of the school community and the school climate committees. So we have a number of anti-bullying lessons that we've developed and continue to improve and do with students, and we've had some student input on those lessons to try to make them more interactive, and kids are telling us that, yes, we don't tell the adults. There is kind of a worry that we have around that in terms of adults, that other kids are going to bully us if we say it, or that they're going to call us a name if we tell the adults. So we're doing a lot of work to try to understand what the problems are and why students don't want to come forward. We have a digital citizenship curriculum. Mary Hannah is continuously revising that with student input. Kindness activities. We have a kindness week coming up in the intermediate school in 2 weeks. So a lot that has been going on, but I did want to also focus on the engagement piece, and that's something I think has been really powerful this year. Our incredible Dr. Corrente has led this work, and it really has been an opportunity for teachers. This was professional development for all teachers. It was about 8 hours I think we've had so far. And we've been focused on what you see on the right-hand side, which is the relating, participating, and thinking. Those are 3 aspects of engagement. And working with teachers to really understand that they're all interconnected. And it has to be that students are engaged in all 3 of these areas: cognitively, social, emotionally, and behaviorally, and teaching teachers what to look for. And we have a new one coming up around strategies to help teachers to improve engagement, so that it's not just compliance, it's true engagement. And I think that's been very powerful, and we've had great feedback from our teachers. Providing for other professional development to staff. I mentioned the engagement. We also had a state mandate of restorative practices training. That's a training that really focuses on building relationships and strong accountability in our relationships with students. We did DBT skills and taught teachers those skills across the district, and those are skills to really help with kids who are dysregulated. And we know that that's really a national difficulty and something that we've been seeing. So we're trying to help our teachers to have some more skills and strategies to manage that. And lastly, our emotional intelligence work, which you see in the right-hand corner there, we have teachers who are talking about developing their charter, how they want to feel at work, valued, appreciated. We know that that's so important in terms of teacher retention. Like in any corporation, we have to really pay attention to our climate and how people are feeling in the building. So just a smattering of things we've been doing. It's been a busy year, but a lot of professional development around our social emotional learning areas. We also know that education to families is so important, or you really are our kids' first and best teachers, so we're constantly trying to partner. And in partnership with New Canaan Cares and many community organizations, we've been able to bring in a number of experts. You saw recently Chris Herron, who talked about substance abuse prevention. We had Scott Driscoll, who talked about parenting in a digital world. Jen Eldridge and I did a number of parent talks and emotional intelligence and relationship building and resilience. And of course, we had Eliza Pressman and our own Dr. Lutzi as moderator, cable ready to go. Very, very wonderful night, and we've had great feedback on all of our parent presentations, so we continue to try to work with our families. I did want to just mention community, because I do think this is such an important piece about how we really take care of our kids and families in New Canaan. And it isn't just me, for sure. It isn't just teachers. It isn't just the individuals. It's all of us together. And it takes a village, for sure. And each of these communities, organizations have been important in the work that we've done all year long. And you really do feel it when you have a crisis, right? And things are difficult. We come together. We have those relationships. We know how to work together. And I think that's been so important, and a real strength of New Canaan is the way that we can have our communities be a part of everything that we do in terms of school climate. And these are just a few additional community organizations that I'm personally involved in. So again, trying to make those relationships and work together with community members. The Behavioral Health Alliance is actually through Silver Hill Health and Human Services and the Community Foundation. They work on substance abuse, mental health in general, and just trying to help awareness around the resources and make sure that the community members know the resources for mental health. It's been a wonderful organization. We have over 30 nonprofits that work with us in trying to do that work. You know about the New Canaan Community Coalition, which also works around substance abuse prevention, and that's a number of New Canaan Cares. Again, the town is involved in that. Our SROs attend, and we work together to try to prevent any kind of substance abuse and just strengthen the community. We have a crisis team that we work. It's a regional crisis team that comes together if there is a crisis. And just today, I was at a Fairfield Youth Cannabis Prevention Project steering committee meeting. That's a new grant that is actually with Wilton, Westport, and Norwalk, and all working together to try to prevent substance abuse in our kids. So that is a lot of what we've been doing in school climate, trying to just get through and give you a little smattering. And the last piece is really to talk about safety and security. I'm also a member of our CAB, which is our Crisis Advisory Board, and work together with them in terms of thinking about policies and ways that our emotional intelligence and supporting kids can be helpful in terms of making sure that everybody's safe. And one of the things that has been very powerful is our addition of the Say Something Anonymous reporting system, which we started last year. As I mentioned, I think in the data we see that kids are not always comfortable coming forward to talk to adults, so this was a way that we knew that our kids could reach out and let us know if there's something going on, if they're concerned. It provides education about potential warning signals, and we use it really for grades 6 through 12. And they're taught about the warning signals of self-harm and harm to others. If there is a tip, it goes through a 24/7, 365-day-a-year crisis center that is staffed by very professional people, and they get the tip. The kids can actually report through an app or the website. It's on the website, or calls, but they never call. We found, I think we had 2. It's all online. The tips are reviewed through that crisis center, and they immediately let us know as administrators, which has been so helpful. And I really do believe we've saved lives this year. There's no question that there have been kids that, we have immediately been able to respond, that we've been able to get them the treatment that they needed. And it just makes me sleep better at night knowing that, that we have the system in place. So I feel very fortunate. We also have students, again, leading a lot of this work, which is to say that we have them doing posters. We want them to be a part of it. As you see, they have their Say Something poster here. Don't check the spelling on anonymous, but they are middle schoolers. And again, a photo of our Start With Hello program that our counselors and student leaders were really leading throughout the Sachs intermediate and middle schools, which was highly successful in getting kids to connect to each other. So the way Say Something works is it's just a 3-step process. As I said, the kids submit the tip, then it goes directly to that crisis center, then the school officials, and if needed, law enforcement are involved. And so it could be Saturday night at 8 o'clock, and we get a tip, right? And we're on that and trying to help anytime that we can. This is just a little bit of the data from that. The pictures are from our training that we did with kids, and all the teachers at the intermediate school wore their "We Don't Worry Alone" shirts. We trained 1,976 students this year. And then when we look at the data from November 23 through January of 2025, we see that we had 65 total tips, and 13 of those are what they call life safety tips. Those are important because they tell you right away this needs to be dealt with immediately, and it goes to a whole group of central office as well as other administrators. So that's really feels good that we've been able to help as many kids as we have this year. So next steps, where are we going with all of this? School climate survey is up again next year, so we'll be planning for that to get some more data and look at where we are. We continue to revise our school climate policies. There was new legislation through the state this year that was going to change actually the definition of bullying and a few other things, so we're going to be working at that, and it'll be headed your way. It is a mandated policy, so you'll be I guess coming to the governance committee for you to take a look at. And we're continuing to monitor the anonymous reporting system. We'll be looking at the data, deciding and thinking about best practices and how we can continue to improve student reporting. So that's where we are. And I had one last video I just wanted to share with you because, as I said, I really am proud of the work of the students putting together and their involvement in our school climate work. And I will say this is not scripted. This was like, hey, guys, can you get together? You've got about 5 minutes, and here's some questions. Can you answer? So I thought they did an amazing job for not having a script, but I'll play it for you.
Mattering is just like a form of like you feeling that you like fit in and feel respected.
Mattering is when people care about you and you're not left alone, and if you matter, then people like you, people care about you.
So basically the climate committee addresses the climate of the school, and we try to make people feel like they matter, and we come up with ideas and ways to make people feel like they matter, and yeah. We make people feel like they matter and include them in our games at recess, and pull them into a group if they don't have a group, and if they're not having a good time, we cheer them up.
Okay, so to make people feel important, one of the ideas we came up with is creating a kindness chain to go around the whole grade.
Well, it would probably be like important, and it would be nice for other people because it would show them like you matter. A second way to show people that they matter is by putting notes on their lockers.
For example, you could put a note on somebody's locker saying you matter, but it doesn't have to only be your friend.
Yeah, like she said, it could be anyone, even someone you don't know. If you see them in the hall, you can say something kind or just put a note on their locker. Putting a note on somebody's locker will make a huge difference.
One of our ideas for the climate committee is to have a time in the day where you can talk with friends and they can check up on you. It's a way where we can express our feelings and how we feel.
A way that we can do this is by taking these cards and giving it to the person after or before you've shared your feelings with them. They have positive messages on them, and you could really just make someone's day better by giving them one.
Thank you, Board of Ed. You make a difference.
So they really are incredible, these kids, I have to say, and they're going to be very involved in our Kindness Week coming up. So they're busy thinking about that, and they have all their little affirmations that they're ready to give out and put on all the lockers. So that's great to know. So with that, I just want to say thank you to all of you for the investment that you make in our kids. I think the work that we're able to do in terms of school climate really is invaluable. We know that these are our future leaders. They're our future innovators. They really are our future in terms of our community, and the strength of our community and future depends on them. So when we're teaching them communication, empathy, critical thinking, to be curious, to be adaptable, to be able to problem solve, to be resilient in those moments and bounce back from setbacks, that's our future. And so thank you all for your investment, and happy to answer any questions.
Thanks so much, Dr. Bliss. I appreciate it. It was a great presentation, and I'm not surprised that we have so many members of our community have been so diligent about actually participating. A lot of type A personalities in this town, so
Yes,
it's
they
good
are
to see
amazing. I have to
everybody
say.
stay involved. So open up for questions. I have a question. I know that the surveys are mandated by the state. Do they also mandate, I mean, it looks like we have some, we can choose which surveys to administer. Is that right?
That is the case, yeah.
And they give us like a list of what we can pick from, or is it pretty?
They don't even give a list, but, we did a lot of research when we chose this one. We looked at, at least 5 or 6. We talked to a lot of districts. We looked at the questions. We were really careful about the kinds of questions, and in the end, we felt this was the one that matched our district the best, and that, it wasn't overreaching. It felt like it was just the kinds of questions that we felt were important, and that's why we chose it, along with the reliability and validity being really strong, and talking to other districts who found the data useful.
No, I appreciate it, and I've seen some of the surveys that some other districts are using. They're not surveys that I think would be appropriate for our town at all, so I appreciate that work. I have just questions here. The NCPS, the principles, are those from the survey, or are those from our own?
They are from the survey. Those are NEASC principles, exactly. So
Okay.
I literally typed exactly what NEASC gives us for those two slides that we went over.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Erica.
Thank you, Dr. Bliss. My first question was the CSCI. You said we used it in 2022.
Mhm.
Was that the first year that we had used it?
It was, yes.
Okay. And before that, did we do any sort of survey, or do we have data that goes back any further than that, or is that really the start?
We did a survey that was through the University of New Hampshire previously, and we didn't have good reliability or validity, and it was not a survey we had a great feeling about in that sense, so we wanted to do something that we felt was more robust and that we could really believe in that way. So we have some data. It's, we haven't been able to have comparative data until this time.
Got it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I was wondering on the elementary versus middle school scores. It looked like mostly they were pretty consistent, like what you
Mhm.
saw in elementary transition to middle school.
Yeah.
It looked like not the sense of social emotional learning, the social and civic learning seemed to take a dip in middle school. And I was wondering if that's something that you guys have looked at, and if you have any sort of additional color on what might be going on there.
Yeah, I think the reality is it is harder to do the kind of work. The morning meeting is really where a lot of that happens in elementary school, and the teachers, have that time set aside. We don't have that in middle school. It's much more content driven. And so, we do have some lessons here and there on bullying and being an upstander, but it's just honestly not at the level that you can do in an elementary school with that morning meeting time. But we continue to do what we can, and I think we do a good job. It's a little harder with middle school students, I'll say too, right? The little ones love it, and the middle school students, we continue to try to find ways to make it engaging and important to them. I did do a focus group with 8th graders and asked them about the lessons just a couple weeks ago, and they had good feedback. They actually said, we think it's very important, and we've used these lessons, and they've helped us. But we wish that they would be a little more engaging, and can you gamify it and use, Kahoot or something like that. So we're looking at making it more engaging.
Got it. And social inclusion looked like something that was not measured in elementary, that was measured in middle?
So yes, that's a great point. Social inclusion actually looks at how kids with disabilities are treated within the school. And so it's a question that you do ask middle school students that wouldn't really be as appropriate to ask 3rd and 4th grade students.
Got it. And then I also was wondering, on the Say Something, did we see an increase over time of kids using the system? Do we feel like we've stabilized where it's pretty consistent over time now, or are we going to continue to see increased use of it?
We have seen a slight increase this year, and we think that is just, more comfort with the system, a sense that it's part of what we do, and we've had, kids also trying to get the word out that it's something that's okay to use. So there has been a slight increase, but it's fairly consistent. Yeah, I'd say fairly consistent.
Great, thank you.
I just had a quick question. Thank you for the presentation. Do we have, with Silver Hill and otherwise, adequate access to mental health professionals, or do we feel like we need more or better access?
We are so fortunate to have the Silver Hill Assessment Program. We have used it so much this year that it really is an incredible. The fact that it's free, that resource for our community is wonderful, and they have been wonderful in finding the mental health people, and they have relationships with some of the providers, so they are able to get people in. I'm not going to say it's overnight. It sometimes takes a couple weeks. There still are some shortages, but overall, the feedback that I'm getting is we're able to get those families in pretty quickly and kids in, which is great. Yeah, that's been a game changer. Yeah.
Hi, Dr. Bliss. Thank you for the presentation. I kind of wanted to build a little bit off of what Erica said. I was wondering, so are you planning on using this same survey in 2026?
It's a great question. We're going to have to go back and look again at all of the surveys because they do change them, and they've made some changes, some of which we're not thrilled about as we look at it. So I think we're going to have to figure out what's going to work best for our district once again. I mean, they've changed it in ways that they changed the neither agree nor disagree because they got so much feedback about that was problematic in many districts. It wasn't just us. And so even if we give it again, it's going to be hard to compare the data. So there are just a lot of things for us to think about in terms of measurement and what we decide upon. Yeah.
So I guess that was kind of my question. So when you look at these low scoring areas, we just have one previous survey to compare to, and you're not confident that we'll have a third data source to
We'll have to see again, whether we decide to use this survey and what form.
To Hugo's point, could we create our own survey? Could you do a bespoke one, or no? You have to kind of pick a service.
I don't think the state has a problem with that. I think it's possible. I think it would be difficult because there wouldn't be that research piece of reliability and validity that I think is important. If you're going to have data, it feels like you should have data that's good data. So, but that's the researcher in me. Yeah.
And then my question would be, when you look at when you look at the conclusions for this K-8 and approaching when all categories, these two questions particularly were low, how do you guys think what are the tools that we're going to use to kind of correct or target in on those? Have you guys come up with an action plan of how you specifically want to tackle those two?
So social emotional learning, social emotional security, really, we've been working a lot on conflict resolution, teaching skills, teaching the faculty about how to manage some of the dysregulation, because that seems to be where it's coming from when we do talk to faculty and ask them what's happening with this. There's a lot of, kids don't have the skills. We don't know if it's just post-COVID or just the way, social media at this point, but they don't have the skills to work things out. So when they get mad, one way they do it is go online, right? And just, or they say something unkind. So we are working to try to build skills so kids can manage their conflict in ways that are appropriate and pro-social. And also the bullying, we do a lot of work around the bullying and being an upstander, and we'll continue that work that we're doing, kindness days, kindness weeks. All of our work in school climate really comes down to trying to address that area that we'd like to see more improvement.
Is that primarily done with the help of Ruler or the mood meter, or just you guys work together, or you guys work as a committee to create your own thing for each school that you're trying to address?
Yeah, it is, each committee comes up with their own goal and comes up with the action plan. So often there might be a Ruler tool that's a part of it, just because Meta Moment's a good thing to teach kids to take a pause so they don't kick their friend when they're mad. But it's really just part and parcel with what we think about. It might be one piece of it, but there's a lot of pieces, right? Teaching them the I statements, saying, I feel, when you, could you please? We do a lot of work around that. So there are many tools that we use, but yes, that's one of them.
Great, thank you. And just final question, why didn't we use this survey in the high school? Like, why'd you switch to a different?
Because we had a NEASC visit, which is an accreditation visit, and we had already surveyed the parents, the kids, and the teachers. So it would mean resurveying everybody a few months later, which didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, NEASC requires you to use their survey.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was close enough that we said, we'll use that data instead of re-administering a whole new survey.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you again for the presentation.
Sure.
We've heard a lot from, at least I have, and I think some others have heard a lot from parents about, I guess, concerns with an increased focus on sort of emotions, right? And sort of there's a balance and should be a healthy balance. And I think
Sure.
on the back of the Abigail Shriver book last year, I think we heard a lot from parents about that and concerns, be it mood meter or the Ruler or other approaches, right? If there's, and I wonder this as well, is there risk in focusing too much, right? It seems that, to me, if we sort of teach them to walk on eggshells, they become actually more fragile, right, our children. And so I think, how do we balance that out? Because as I look at the data here, for example, one thing that kind of struck me is that the low point that we have, the sense of social emotional security for both the elementary school as well as SACS, those were our lowest scores, right, at 3. And again, I completely understand that may be influenced by the neutral option, right? But certainly it's 3. But as I look at sort of adults that were surveyed, it was never below 3.5, right? Be it parents or staff. Mm-hmm. And so either there's a mismatch in sort of in information or certainly in perception as to what is unsafe, which indicates to me that maybe our children are slightly not as resilient or maybe too sensitive, let's put it that way. I mean, is that a conclusion that one could draw from this? Because, again, as I think about parents, if they're always above 3.5, and you would assume that those also are being influenced by the neutral option. So I guess those that replied or felt something other than neutral were mostly on the positive side, right? So how do we reconcile that? Mm-hmm. Those different data?
I can't answer that, but I will say that I think, in some cases, the kids know what's going on in their schools and they're reporting on some of that. There is a sense that, one of the questions is, I have seen somebody teased more than once in my school. That's the question. So I think, we do get some kids saying, yes, I agree with that. And that's not a good score if they agree with that. So, I think it is tough in middle school. I think it's something that we know we're always dealing with. I don't think it's a New Canaan thing. It's a national thing. And I think that the trend, our data reflect national trends, and the company tells us that, right? This is what all the schools look like. There's lower scores on social media and social emotional safety throughout every school that they are working with. So I think it reflects those national trends, and, it doesn't mean it's not a concern for us. We can continue to try to improve and do better in everything that we do. But in terms of resilience, I think everything we do is to make kids resilient. That's what resilience is. It's helping them to have strategies and skills and mindsets to be able to manage what life throws at them. And so I know our teachers, we surveyed them and said, what would you like parents to know about our emotional intelligence work? And they said that we don't focus too much on emotions, that we're really focused on just trying to get them to come in from recess, calm down and learn. And so, I think, again, we're using this in a way to try to help our learning communities be better, to really help our kids be resilient, to have strategies that they need in order to be resilient. So I believe that, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And then I guess, and I thought about that, maybe it's just the parents aren't aware, right? Because again, there's a huge discrepancy between not just parents, but staff, right, and students. But one would assume that would apply to social media as well, but those scores are actually really consistent across children and adults.
Yeah, I think the consistency in some ways between children and adults is that like 49% were saying, I neither agree nor disagree, and that there's a sense that they don't know. Another thing that I'm not happy about some of the questions is it says things like, most kids at my school. Well, I don't necessarily know what most kids at my school are doing, right? Most kids at my school are not harmed by when they're online. I don't know, right? So I think there's a problem there, and that's why they changed the survey, to be perfectly honest. But I mean, again, I don't know. I can't tell you that that's the answer, but it certainly seems to be a piece of it.
Understood. And then I guess going back to this resilience issue, we've also heard some frustration expressed by parents. I guess recess monitors, and sort of part of the resilience is allowing children to sort of resolve their own issues and working them out without the constant intervention or helicoptering of adults that may be heavy-handed or without complete information, right? And that's been a source of a lot of frustration. How do we tie sort of an excess monitoring at recess, right, and sort of excess, which seems, again, from some parents to be an oversensitive or an overreaction to sort of very typical childhood interactions. How do we reconcile that with your statement about building resilience, right? Because you need to be exposed to these very normal, I mean, we grew up in the 90s or 80s or whatever, and like, you just kind of, you learn to, there's certain aspect of building resilience in sort of in unsupervised situations, right? Not that we would leave the children unsupervised, but I mean, if we're always intervening, we don't allow them to build that resilience. I mean, how do we reconcile those two goals?
Well, I will say, when Jen Eldridge and I were speaking to the parents, that's really what our message is too. Like, back off, let them solve their own problems, and have them learn the skills to problem solve. That's what is best for kids. So there's no question about that. I think the work that we're doing with our teachers and with our TAs who are out on the recess is to help them to do that, not to just shut everything down, but to help the kids think, how are you going to deal with it differently next time? And think that through. It's about learning. And you're right, they're kids. They're going to have to learn. These are the ways that they learn. We also have to keep the kids safe, right? We can't let them be physically harmed on.
And duke it out, yes.
We can't let them duke it out. That's where public school, we can't do that. But
not the 80s, yes.
Not the 80s that way. But within reason, you're right. And I think we are trying to train our teachers and TAs to have the skills to be able to have conversations that will help kids with problem solving.
So is that the directive, I guess, is a better question, is to allow them as much as possible to work it out before we just shut down the entire soccer game or something like that?
I really don't know I can't say what the directive is in every, that's not coming from me, but I think that is the way we deal with everything with kids. We try to help them learn skills to be able to deal with things better and be, that's education.
Well, okay, so should that come from, I guess, your office, given your expertise, right, to make sure that's communicated to the administrations of the different elementary schools and middle schools?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is something that we'll continue to talk about, and I think my sense is that it is happening, that they're trying to help kids work out their own issues and talk about it, and we can continue to look at that for sure.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the presentation, Dr. Bliss. I'm looking at this slide that says, why is school climate important? And it gives a bunch of very appropriate reasons why it is important. So I think there's a lot of research. I think everybody can agree that stress is a major reason why people might treat somebody not well.
Yes.
And I think I know Dr. Lutzy, I've been talking to you about this, so no surprise, but I think our kids need more physical activity during the day, whether it's recess, maybe a second recess or a longer recess. But I think it would also, I mean, there's so much research out there about better academic achievement too, if you get the kids outside and get them moving. And I think about a day like today where I know there was indoor recess, and I think PE is only once on an 8-day cycle, and these kids are just, I know my two came home just today. So how can we get them moving around more? How can we help the kids? I just think that's such a natural way to resolve a lot of these issues.
I mean, I think our teachers do an amazing job. I've been in classrooms. I went to watch one of the anti-bullying lessons, and the teacher had them, if you agree with this statement, do jumping jacks, and if you don't agree, do sit-ups. And the kids were all, this was in a middle school. So I think what we really try to help them do is incorporate movement into the day and as part of what they're doing and their teaching. And that's important. Kids do need to get up and move, and that's something that we do talk about. But I hear what you're saying. I'm sure there's ways we can continue that work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My kid's a little bit younger, so I don't have the experience you have, and I do have one at Saks now. But I mean, is this, just kind of a general question, is this stuff working? We didn't have this growing up, to Matt Campbell's point, like all this intervention at all. We just kind of figured it out.
Just go deal with it.
You kind of deal with it, and a lot, I feel like maybe it was there and we just didn't hear about it, but like depression, medication, self-medication, whatever it is, like it just seems to be so rampant now. Do we have any data that shows, like, are our kids actually being bullied less or bullying less than they did 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Like, are we tracking, like, how do you track that, and are we tracking that? It seems like we have all these
I was going to say,
ideas,
that
but
is
like
school climate data, right? And it looks a little flat, and so that's something that we're trying to work on. But I think it's flat across the nation. I just listened to a podcast on this, and they said that the rates for bullying and for kids being unkind have been the same for 30 years. It hasn't changed anywhere. So, it's not easy to make change in that area. I think what we do here, and I hear it from the kids, I do focus groups with kids, is that they do find these skills helpful, that they find, taking a breath before they have a big presentation or a math test, and they have a strategy where they can get through that. It helps them. They're telling us that, they like it. They feel like it's helpful to them in their school day. So that's the data that I go with. I think, we know that the kids are saying it's helpful. One of our parents, who I think is here tonight, from one of our school climate committees, told me that her kids came to her saying, can we do a charter? She's the softball coach. Can we do a charter? So these are things that they're finding helpful and bringing, into other contexts. So I think that says a lot.
Okay, thank you. Laura? Mm-hmm.
All right, can I just ask one follow-up question? Kind of building off both, when you look at this specific safety rules and norms.
Yes.
For our students, we're almost up at a 4.5, like
Yes.
it's very highly scored, and then our parents were over a 4. Our staff has the lowest score. And so a question I would have is, have we had a conversation with our staff about that? When you compare how students find an environment and staff, and we're talking about some feedback that we've heard from parents and their kids coming home about recess monitors or over monitoring, do we feel like maybe there's a disconnect between how kind of overbearing staff feels to students versus when we look at this risky behavior, how teachers are evaluating what is appropriate risk and what is within the margin of risk for our students to take?
That's an interesting question. I don't know the answer to that, but I think it is interesting to look at that data, that there are differences. I think our kids are responding positively, saying that they like, kids like rules, and they do feel safe by that.
Yeah,
and
they,
I think
they like to know what's
expected, of course. Right. So I think I see that as a real strength that we have, that we've worked hard on, that kids do know what the expectations are, and they know what happens if they don't meet them, and that's a good thing.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Cool, thank you so much.
Very helpful.
Thank
Can I
you.
just say very
Yeah,
quick?
please.
I want to just quickly say thank you to Dr. Bliss and to everyone who's here with us tonight. I think that there are so many different ways to approach this work, and the way that Dr. Bliss, Dr. Crenti, Mr. Tesber, all of us have done sort of this idea that we all sort of know the goal, but we also recognize that each school is a different entity in and of itself and made up of those community members. So having the school climate committees the way that you do, with there's the teachers, the parents, others that are involved, and then having the students directly involved in the work really has been incredibly successful across the district. It's an awful lot more work than just sort of sitting back and sending things out, but the results are so much richer and help us each year to move forward a little bit more, and it's really made a big difference. So thank you all for being a part of this very important work, and thank you for being here tonight, and we look forward to hearing an update.
Thank you so much. And yes, thank you to all of our school climate team. They are incredible. So big shout out. Thank you.
All right, next up, budget update.
You're not going to stick around to get the budget update? What's this?
Come on.
What about me? Thank you for coming.
Thank
all
you.
for coming. I am going to attempt to do the quickest budget update you've heard since January.
Oh, nice.
Ready?
Yeah.
You have a sheet of paper in front of you. It just walks us through the different iterations of the budget, from the superintendent's budget that was presented at the beginning of January to the town council final Board of Education's budget that was approved on Thursday last week. You see the adjustments that occurred along the way. Both adding in the coach and the interventionist, making the adjustments for the turnover savings with the Board of Education's budget, the adjustments with the Board of Finance, the stop loss, and then increasing the turnover savings, and then the $150,000 from Thursday night with the town council. In the end, it looks like $555,000 is our turnover assumption. That is a high assumption. We will be monitoring it very closely, and if we do get into the new year and we haven't hit that number, I'm sure there'll be other opportunities and things that emerge, which is why we don't want to, when people ask, well, what will you do? The answer is we will solve that problem. If they say, how will you solve it? We don't know yet, because that's the budgeting, that's the financial management of the budget as we go through the year. But we feel very good about where we are. I want to say thank you to all of the board members. You were more engaged than I can recall, folks coming to all the meetings and being a part of all of that. And it really made a big difference to me and to, I think, everyone involved. All of the phone calls and conversations that occurred were very helpful. And we are thrilled to be finished with the process and looking forward to spring break next week. And it'll be at least a couple of months till we do it again. So let's enjoy those. All right.
Yeah, thank you. I want to echo the thanks to everybody, Dr. Lutzy, obviously the cabinet, putting so much time in, showing up for hours and hours upon meetings. And I do agree that I think that this year's, of the 4 years I've been doing this year's was the most transparent, comprehensive. Everybody was really involved. And I also want to commend the other town bodies, because I think that that's what we asked for, was just a more transparent process. And I think that they all delivered as well. So I was happy. It wasn't a perfect process, never is, but it's the process we all have to go through. So anyway, thank you all for the work. And then moving on to something fun. Another donation from the All Sports Booster Club. Do you want to talk about it?
I'll talk about it.
So I get a motion to accept the donation from the All Sports Booster Club in the amount of $50,683, spot 76, to support additional coaching positions. Brendan, second. Phil.
Yep, so these coaching positions are for the winter season. We're talking about basketball, swimming, ice hockey, others. That $50,000, again, is the opportunity to lower that coach to athlete ratio, which we feel really is a hallmark of our program and helps us to have the success that we do with our kids. Because again, it's, coaching, as we saw yesterday with UConn, coaching it matters, right? If you saw the UConn game with Gino afterwards, crying during his interview, it really heartwarming. Those are the connections and the relationships that our kids are forming as well as they go through these experiences. And we are so lucky to have the All Sports Booster Club supplementing our program and empowering us to have the ratios that we have in the programs that we do for our kids. So this $50,683.76 will go to very good use with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different coaches across all of the programs, boys and girls.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Any questions, comments? Great. All in favor? Fantastic. Motion passes. And then back to comments from the public. Anybody like to approach the board?
As Dr. Ludsey mentioned in his summary of the work of the English department, he talked about aligning the content, the titles with appropriate to the level, but also aligning it with the curriculum standards. So I went looking for the standards because I've been dying to see these for some time. And online, I found standards, lots of them. They're academic standards, and as far as I could tell, these are not local standards. These come from the Connecticut Common Core curriculum. I know you can't answer me whether I'm right or wrong. What I'm looking for, those are all wonderful. I read them. They're excellent. It's what all really good literature teachers and writing teachers do all the time. Have to do with vocabulary, analytical skills, absorbing content. It's all standard. It's good. I'm looking for a different set of standards, and I realize in a few conversations I've had that I may have been talking past the administration people because I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about drawing up with the Board of Ed and the community, because this is where the red flag went up and some people are on one side and other people on the other side, drawing up a different set of standards that fits beautifully with what we just heard on school climate and the teaching students how to relate to each other in relationships, including students being kind. These are all ethical standards, and I think similar standards could be drawn up for to assess curriculum, particularly titles and essays and other media that they read and are exposed to. Because if we teach them on the one hand with all these wonderful things that Dr. Bliss is doing, and then they read a book such as we've been talking about, and they see adolescents behaving in exactly the opposite and way over the edge, they're left with confusion because they're developing. That's where they are. So I'm calling
It's been
for
2 minutes. Sorry.
2 minutes? That's
It's
it?
been 2 minutes. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And the next announcements and future business, please.
Yes, as we mentioned before, the meeting began. We have spring break after this week, so I hope everyone enjoys it. If you're traveling, travel safely. Hopefully we'll find the sun around here for those of us who aren't traveling. And our meeting will be the Monday we get back on the 21st. So looking forward to that. We'll see you all in 2 weeks.
Yeah, great. Can a motion to adjourn? Second, all in favor? Motion passes. Have a great night.
Thank you.